thank you for joining me, Shane. Can you please let people know what you do, how long you've been working in the education sector for, please?
Sure. Well, it's great to be here with you, James. I've been working in this sector for over 25 years now. My academic background started with building and property surveying, but I later, as a latecomer to acoustics, became a member of the Institute of Acoustics and did my second qualification with them. So now I focus on building acoustics, and I'm the education lead for the UK and Ireland for Saint-Gobain Echofon. Echofon being the Swedish part within the French Saint-Gobain group.
Okay, thank you. So we'll jump in with the first question, which has kind of been left by Mark Brown from TG Escapes. Mark asked you, Shane, you have mentioned recently the testing you've been doing after projects have been completed and operational. Can you please share a bit more about this, key learning points so far from the testing you've been doing, and why it's important to do this for projects going forward?
Sure. Yeah, we're really pleased to be able to offer this as a service now. So we will not just post-test, James, but we will pre-test, which is particularly useful if you have a complex space and you're not sure how surfaces are reacting to sound. You've got a good platform to start from if you pre-test and you know what you're working with. It's been particularly useful in validating and reassuring to us as an organization that when we post-test, our acoustic modeling, which we offer for free in advance. So we take an architect's concept or design, and then we say, yeah, this is going to comply with DFE standards for schools, universities, or not, and this is what you need to do to tweak it. Is very useful, but then being able to post-test after that design is completed and see that you are bang on or even slightly better is a very nice feeling, very reassuring that what we're doing is pretty deadly accurate. And I can tell you over the last 6 months since we've been testing that we have been bang on. Mark might be referring to one of our latest tests. We've been working in conjunction with Mark's organization, TG Escapes, and very successfully put in a design which was post-tested and met the BB93 standard for special educational needs in their panelized systems, an SEN unit onto an existing school. There are other providers other than TG Escapes of these types of units, and we've been working with other modular volumetric companies as well, providing innovative solutions that have met BB93. I keep referencing that's Building Bulletin 93 acoustic design of schools, and we're particularly pleased to have been able to give them practical solutions that have been tested, tried and tested to show that they work, because what a difference it's going to make to thousands of pupils.
And have you sort of so far, in terms of the results that you've got from doing those testing, noticed any key differences between the different building types, or is that too early in the kind of approach that you're taking? Will that come further down the line?
No, it's nothing that we didn't understand before. There are some learning points that are minutiae that your listeners probably won't be so interested in, but on modular volumetric, we know that low ceilings, which are not so good for air quality necessarily, unless you've got a really good thermal strategy to take care of that, but they're very good for acoustics. So it's easier to hit the standards with lower ceilings, but it's very important to note that it's likely to be in the next framework that we will continue to see soffit heights required at 3.3 meters, and that helps with air quality. Of course, it just makes the acoustics a little bit more challenging, but nothing that we can't cope with. And also, really importantly, we've had a few main contractors say that they don't think that the SEN standard, which is more onerous but very important for children with autism and ADHD and hearing impairments, it's just too difficult for them to hit, and they try to derogate it, which is a dirty word now. It's value engineering, and what we've proven time and time again is it's not. It is quite simple and straightforward to hit, and we've got the results to prove it. So that's reassuring as well, that what the DFE has put in place is entirely reasonable and can be met, as long as you do the design right in the first place.
And in terms of the different building types, new build versus refurb, or retrofit, have you kind of done any sort of testing within those and compared and contrasted against each other yet, or is that coming down the line in terms of once you've got a body of evidence of the work you've been doing?
Oh, we do both. So in the last couple of weeks, I've literally done both. So I've done new buildings. I've actually done a few video conferencing rooms in some very expensive, high-profile offices in London. But I've also done retrofit or refurbishment testing and designs for schools in Greater Manchester who are needing to, with an influx, an increase, an acceleration of students with assisted learning needs, need to get some spaces right for them. And the standards for refurbishment are less onerous. They're easier to hit, understandably. You know, if you've got a Victorian building with a barrel vaulted ceiling, you're never going to hit the new build standard. But it's all relatively straightforward. You know, allowance is made for retrofit. If you've got one of those Victorian or Edwardian buildings with a very high ceiling, it's entirely possible. So yeah, we do a very good combination. With the school's rebuilding program starting, you know, there's a lot of it going on, and we're happy in both environments, either to refurbish or to prepare designs for new build. But being able to test is very useful, and pre-test in existing buildings where they could be quite echoey, or there might be some strange anomalies because of the unusual Victorian design. Knowing where you're starting from is particularly useful.
I think
And we don't charge for that either.
No, and I think in October it'd be quite interesting to do a workshop or round table around that, because we've got quite a few presentations covering heritage buildings and those kind of bits. So yeah, we'll take it offline and have a conversation for things in October. Right, so kind of on to the next question really is, which projects are you most proud of and why? I know you've worked on hundreds or thousands, but is there one or two projects that really stick out to you and kind of think, yeah, they're kind of exemplar of what you guys do?
That's a really interesting question, and I thought about it for a little while. I'd have to say what I'm most proud of is any space that we have dramatically changed that benefits students with assisted learning needs, particularly those with autism or hearing impairments. Doesn't matter what it is, where it is. One of the London boroughs in the middle of Oldham, if we've been able to take a classroom where, and I've witnessed this, James, firsthand, where you've seen children with autism hitting the desk, hitting themselves, hitting someone nearby, because they are so overwhelmed by the noise level. And then you go in, make a difference with some very basic intervention, and the whole behavior changes, even in the teacher. So the heart rate comes down, blood pressure drops, irritability reduces, the ability to work, learn, attain in those spaces. For me, that's what I'm most proud of. There are a couple of standout architectural projects, I would say. A few years ago, this one was shortlisted for the Stirling Prize. It's Glasgow College, the #1 destination for Scottish students at the moment. Absolutely huge, massive atrium. I think it's the second biggest atrium in the UK in education, with learning spaces off of it, and it's a very successful, fantastic building. Two different architects involved in the same project, great collaboration. And more latterly, MECD, Europe's largest integrated engineering building, the size of 11 football pitches, the big black shiny building in the middle of Manchester, is a fantastic building. Both of them I would recommend anybody to visit and walk in through the doors and have a look. That they are particularly spectacular buildings that work very well acoustically, that could have been disastrous with poor acoustics.
Brilliant, no, thank you. On to the next question. Over the next year or so, what do you think are the biggest challenges the sector faces and why?
I'd say that there's a number of challenges here. One of them is to really understand how students perceive the design of their learning spaces, and the difference between the design of learning spaces from Australia through Europe to the United Kingdom is growing further apart. I am concerned that England is being left behind, quite frankly. Scotland's ahead of the curve and got some great examples following on from Scandinavian and Netherlands designs, as well as schools around Melbourne and Sydney, which are looking great, and in New Zealand as well. The challenge really is to have some firm scientific evidence around students' perception of the space they're in and how it demonstrably affects them, particularly to get government's attention, how it affects their ability to memorize and attain, and also their aspirations and their ability to go on and get qualifications, particularly if they had assisted learning needs. How far can we take them to be independent as adults, taking less strain off of society and governments later on in life, if we can help them earlier on? And I believe in a lot of cases we can do better in that area. And the other challenge is just persuading the cabinet, the government, to give more money to the DFE so that they can invest. This is in England and Wales. They can invest in schools that will perform better, and ultimately it's an investment that will pay back over and over again if we can get our learning spaces right and give children a better school experience.
And on the flip side, what are the biggest opportunities the sector can achieve or faces over the next sort of year or so?
If we get our learning spaces right, it's a wonderful opportunity. I probably answered it in the previous question, in really helping. We know that autism and other special education needs are accelerating. We've seen that at the SEN conference that you've hosted so well at the Science Centre. We know the numbers are increasing. So what can we do? By the way, architecture, engineering, especially acoustics, are there's a higher percentage than average of people with autism in those sectors, and we need great architects, engineers, and acoustic consultants, and they need a slightly different, better acoustic learning space when they're learning as children. We need to make the environment better for them, so it's in our interests to get that right. I think the opportunity is to engage with the world's largest educational research program in its 5th year. Ecophon has been part of that since the beginning. It's coordinated from the University of Melbourne, and there are committees all over the world. There's a lot of work being that was done initially, coordinated from the University of Edinburgh by a team up there that Ecophon initially supported. And if we can get the DFE to engage with this research, it's called initially it was called ILETC. That was the first 4 year of research. Innovative Learning Environments and Teacher Change. Professor Wes Imms came and was one of the speaker at Education Estates. People might remember the koala bears that ended up everywhere to promote that. But that's moved on now, very importantly, to ILESE, so special education. So now, how can we make learning spaces inclusive and include those with special educational needs? And little things can make a big difference. So let's put in a corner a round desk with some desk screens that are above desk height, and some children with autism love to sit in those little cubby holes. They respond much better. It's still inclusive. They're still with their classmates. We've not dragged them to another space in the school halfway across the school, but they can be there. But we can reduce the sound we've proven, by 20 decibels behind a screen that just helps them be a little calmer. They're still with everybody else. It's still inclusive, but they can learn in something very simple with just a bit of desk screening. But there's more research into those areas needs to happen. And I'm very pleased to say that our parent company has worked with us, Saint-Gobain Research, to develop a post-occupancy evaluation tool that we now have, which will allow us to look at a learning space for up to 2 weeks, as long as the battery lasts, in 4 of our sensors that can be 50 meters apart. And we can now monitor ambient noise level, so we can track what's going on during the day. Sometimes, James, we're seeing noise levels that go above factory levels, that take your heart rate above that recommended by the NHS, which will have an impact on your health and your longevity. We can monitor the temperature, the humidity, the lux levels on the working plane, because lighting is very, very important. In fact, it's the number one element in a learning space, closely followed by acoustics. So we now have the ability for PoE, which we're very excited about. We're going to put that to good use this year.
Thank you. And I guess on to my next question. You've been with us, Saint-Gobain Ecophon, have been with us right from the start. 12 years ago, this is the 12th year exhibiting with us, and you've been great in helping shape the programmes over the years. In your opinion, what do attendees get out of attending Education States, and why would you recommend people to attend this year?
There are so many answers to that question. It's a way of bringing thought, people who are experts in various aspects of the build together and to learn and collaborate from each other. Because how often can you bring all these different disciplines together on a Teams call or a meeting? How could you coordinate that to find out what advances in technology, design, research, not just nationally, but internationally, is going on? And so it's all brought together in one useful hub. And you know, so many times I might give a presentation, and I've literally had the situation where there's been a queue of people after the presentation, and seeing and talking to all those people who want to talk about what they're doing and how it integrates with what they're doing or ask questions about it. And that's gone on longer than the session itself in just the networking that's happened afterwards. So collaboration, networking, finding out what other disciplines are doing, integrating it, bringing it together, bringing in international examples of what's worked for them, so we don't reinvent the wheel, and the opportunity to just to network and catch up with people across the country you might not see very often, but that are in. It's just fantastic. It's great. So great atmosphere, but great knowledge and learning opportunities as well.
Thank you for that, Shane. And anyone watching this and attending in October, do pass by the Ecophon stand and speak to Shane and his colleagues. They'll be there over the 2 days.
You'd be very welcome.
Now, you're incredibly well known and somewhat of a legend in the sector. Can you share something with the audience that they might not necessarily know about you?
This is a good one. What do you want people to know about you? People might not know that when I was 18, I lived in Michigan, and I spent a few months living with a lesser known Indian tribe called the Potawatomi tribe in the Great Lakes. A fantastic experience. Still friends with many of them. Amazing people. So that was quite an experience for a young 18-year-old.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, my next conversation is with Jane O'Leary from ISG. What question would you like to ask Jane during our conversation?
I'd like to ask this one on behalf of the Institute of Acoustics and the Association of Noise Consultants. And it's this: how can we help main contractors like ISG not derogate or value engineer important designs, specifications that have been put there sometimes by their own design departments for a very good reason, and well-meaning QSs think that they're doing everyone a favor by saving some money, but in fact can ruin an entire acoustic design through their value engineering by not collaborating. So how can we stop that from happening? How can we collaborate more and build a bridge between architects and main contractor design departments to their commercial QS department to stop that happening?
Thank you, Shane. I'll put that to Jane in our next conversation. So thank you very much for joining me, and we look forward to seeing you in October at Education States, and thank you all that you do for us in the event, and have a nice summer.
My pleasure. You too. Thanks, Jane.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.